myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Well, good afternoon from the Champions League. Welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. A great day and great to be joined by Ross Gregory this Tuesday afternoon. How are you, Ross?
I'm good, thanks, Steve. I think I'm like most Newcastle fans and followers. I'm still a little bit delirious after last night. Still a little bit on a high, buzzing after getting that vital point. So all good today.
Yeah, amazing stuff, and we'll be reflecting next week on a season gone by. Obviously, we've got one more game to play, but we'll be doing a season review with Ross next week, just looking back on the games, the goals, finding out who Ross's Player of the Year is, etc. So looking forward to that. But just looking back on last night's game first, Ross, Leicester had something to play for. They've given themselves a chance of potentially getting out of relegation on the final day of the season. It's going to be a shootout between them, Leeds and Everton for that final couple of spaces. But overall, what did you make of the game last night?
Yeah, I thought it was it was a strange game. It was, there was only one team out there trying to win it, and that was Newcastle. Very much, kind of front foot and positive. Leicester had come with a kind of firm game plan in mind, putting 9, 10, 11 men behind the ball, went to a back five, switched from a back four to a back five, dropped two of their most creative players in Maddison and Harvey Barnes, who Newcastle fans are well aware of after recent links. So it was really clear from the outset what their intentions were. It meant that Newcastle had a lot more of the ball than what they probably expected, and certainly what they've had in the majority of games this season. And it became almost like a defense versus attack type of game, and I thought Newcastle had to be patient, had to be aware of the type of game that it was, and that it wasn't one necessarily to go 100 mile an hour into and leave gaps where they could get hit on the break. They just had to be patient, try and keep working the ball out wide, and it did just seem like the first goal would come any second, any minute. It didn't, and the longer the game went on, it got a little bit more tense and a little bit more nervy. A few missed chances. Newcastle still completely in control. Leicester having very, very few touches in the final third, very few touches in Newcastle's box, but while it's that nils each, while it's on that kind of little bit of a knife edge, anything can happen in football, and we saw right at the end there that it was almost a disastrous night. It was almost a freak result after the way the 93 minutes had gone prior to that. But look, it doesn't matter how you get over the line as long as you do. Leicester are a really good example of a team who's got into a strong position in terms of fighting for the Champions League, and haven't been able to stumble over that line of kind of thrown it away in the last 2-3 games. And Newcastle had to just be aware of that it wasn't that kind of fate wasn't going to afflict them as well. So just to get over the line with what ultimately was a bit of a scrappy 0-0. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares as long as that point was gained. Champions League football next season, and the celebrations at the end were fantastic to see, and something that'll live long in the memory of everybody who was there, players, fans, supporters, coaching staff, all included. So look, it was a funny old night. A lot of tension, a lot of nerves, but job done ultimately.
I said to Malcolm McDonald last night when we did our post-match talk that the sign of a good goalkeeper is when you have to do nothing all game and then suddenly pull off a world-class save. And I think that shows how good Nick Pope is. Virtually redundant throughout the whole game. A very dominant performance by Newcastle, but they just couldn't break Leicester down. And then 92 minutes on the clock, and Leicester turned defence into attack and almost grabbed it if it hadn't been for that wonderful save.
Yeah, look, he's been outstanding all season, and he's been a huge signing. A lot of people were a little bit surprised, myself included, when Newcastle went from in the summer, because I didn't feel it was necessarily an area that they absolutely needed to strengthen. But he's been outstanding. His shot stopping is really second to none, I think, in this league at the minute. He's alert off his line. He's a calm and reassuring presence for the back four, I think, in the main. And you're right. He's barely touched the ball all game, but he was still on his toes. He was still alert, and pulled off a really important save right at the end. And it was quite fitting in some ways as well, I thought, because Newcastle at the start of the season, the first half of the season was built on the success, I thought, was built on a resolute defence, a really strong defensive mindset and performance in rearguard actions. With Pope playing a key part in that, but a solid back four ahead of him as well. Over the last probably 3 months, the clean sheets have dried up and the defensive performances haven't been as solid, and I've been as critical as anyone. That the lack of clean sheets, I think that was before yesterday's game it was 1 in 17. Now it's 2. But it was good just to see that they could keep that clean sheet, and the defensive resolve that had shone through at the start of the season came back to the fore when Newcastle needed it the most last night.
Yeah, fantastic save, and he's had a great season, really, really good season. Mag debates says Leicester deserve to be relegated after that performance. Mick says great first half, but a little frustrating second. Thank God Pope hadn't fallen asleep. How are the lads? Into Europe we shall go again. And Andrew says, all right, lads and chatters, canny good feeling today. Now it's sunken in. However, Leicester were toilet. It wasn't a footballing spectacle, says Roger, but the result sure as hell was. And BT says should have had 3 points to ensure third spot at the end of the season. Magda Bates says Leicester was shocking. And Doug says great atmosphere last night in the Gallagher. I've never seen such a one-sided game. Chipper says he can't stop listening to the Champions League. And Steve Parker says good afternoon from the Champions League. Incredible achievement. Mega proud of everyone involved. And war flags last night was amazing. Have you ever seen a flag display as good as that, Ross?
No, I think they've constantly surprise you and take it on to a new level. And you read some of the comments on social media last night and this morning, and even people who support in different clubs and or follow different clubs recognize how special and how amazing that was last night. Look, it all creates the atmosphere. It all plays into the success I think that Newcastle have had this season. The organisers of war flags and the supporters who buy into it, I think have played their part this season, certainly. So you're always looking to think, how can they top this? How can they keep topping it? How can they keep improving it? But going into the Champions League, having that kind of atmosphere, that kind of display, that sort of atmosphere on the biggest stage of all, it's going to be great for the city, great for the club, and it's getting noticed far and wide now, not just within the Tyneside area. War flags are kind of internationally recognised now.
Yeah, they are. Been absolutely fantastic. Bry, good afternoon, says we had to try and start to play around and through Leicester last night, as every ball we seem to put in. His message is gone. Where's the rest of that message? We had to try play through and around Leicester last night, as every ball we seem to put into their box was dealt with by the size of their centre halves. I mean, look, they came and set up. They came to get a point and try and catch it and try and catch us on the counter. Bright, to be honest, they played a back five. They were very well disciplined. Credit to Dean Smith for what he managed to get out of his team last night. And as I said at the top of the programme, he's given himself a fighting chance in the last day of the season. It's going to be tough, of course, but they're still in the mix. Mark Todd says Longstaff would be amazing if he could score. He gets into some fantastic positions, but never puts it away. He's put it away a couple of times this season, Mark, but he does need to improve that side of his game. In fairness to him, there was a really, really good save by their goalkeeper in the one chance that he did get through last night. But there was times where we looked as if we were trying to walk the ball into the net, but ultimately was down to Leicester's well-disciplined defence. They did very, very well last night, Leicester, but it didn't stop us qualifying for the Champions League. Benny says, in fairness to Leicester, the game plan almost worked. Did highlight a recurring problem for the side, inability to open low block teams up. Dominic, or someone in that ilk, is needed. Steve Mowat says, afternoon, Steve, Ross and chatters. I don't recommend drinking large amounts of Jack Daniels and starting work at 5. Yes, that's not a good idea, mate. It's not big and it's not clever. And Funko says, everything's magic and beaming this morning. Yeah, there are a lot of happy faces around Newcastle and surrounding areas as I passed them on my walk this morning. Clean sheets are one thing. But we drew 6 times 0-0 during the first half of the season with a few 1-1s thrown in here and there. Second half of the season, a lot less clean sheets, but we won a lot more. Yeah, so sometimes you do have to give away something, to gain. And Tom just praises War Flags this season. So there's been some really good displays. John asks a question. How do you think we will do adjusting to games in midweek followed by the weekend? Will it be tricky? Will we cope okay? It's not like we've been used to it in recent years. So that is going to be the first issue, isn't it, Ross? We are going to have travelling to do, not necessarily the games, but it's the travelling, isn't it? And the getting used to that.
Yeah, it's going to be a real challenge for Eddie Howe and for his coaching team. I think they've been slightly fortunate, or unfortunate is the right word, but they benefited this season from in the main being able to go kind of Saturday to Saturday or Saturday to Sunday to Saturday or whatever, not having that midweek exertions that other clubs have had. And we saw, I suppose we saw around the February time when there was a slight distraction or there was something else that occupied the mind other than the league form, which when Newcastle got to the Carabao Cup final, it can affect your league performances. So there's no doubt about it that's going to be a challenge. And you're right, Steve, it's not just about the games. It's not just about playing Tuesday, Saturday or Wednesday, Sunday or whatever it is. It's about the travel, but it's also you then don't have that full week to work on something. You don't have that full week to go, right, hang on, this is what happened Saturday or Sunday. We need to work on this ahead of the following weekend's game. You've got a lot less preparation time. You've got a lot less focus on terms of your league fixtures. And then it's the squad depth. It's the intensity. Newcastle played a really high, intense level of performance in terms of how they apply themselves, how they approach each game. We've seen the intensity certainly in those first 20-25 minutes in a lot of games. And to be fair, the fitness levels are still going strong, and Newcastle got one of the best records in the league for scoring late on in the last 10 minutes of games. So that's going to be something that will be a challenge as well. But if that's why this summer is crucial. It's crucial in terms of bringing in the right players, strengthening the team in the right areas, and making sure that it's a robust, strong, healthy, and deep squad that can cope on 2 or 3 different fronts, because it's the Champions League, it's the Premier League, and then there's also the domestic cups, which Newcastle still want to have a good go in. So that will be a challenge. I'm sure Eddie Howe will relish it, though. He'd much rather be in this position than just going Saturday to Saturday and not having a European football to play for. It's a great headache to have, but he'll be aware of that. But it will undoubtedly be a big challenge.
Yeah, something we'll be getting our teeth into over the summer. Still 7 shows a week during the summer, and me and Ross will be talking transfers each Tuesday. But next week we are going to review the season. Benny says, Leicester were only doing yesterday what we used to do under Rafa and Bruce. Remembering the smash and grab we did on Chelsea at St James's Park when Hayden got the winner last minute with our first shot. He's got to stop heading the ball. I'm not sure who Mag was talking about there. Maybe Sean Longstaff. My hangover has me in the bin today, says Dan. You'll be in a collective there, mate. And E-I-E-I-E-I-O into the Champions League we go. Yes, back where we belong, says Stu. Are you watching Mike Ashley and Cabbage Heat? That's how it's done. Tom says he would like to see Manchester United and Chelsea end in a draw or a win at Chelsea on Thursday night, which of course will give us an opportunity to potentially still get third. not that it matters really. War flags continue to raise the bar. Fantastic. You are right, Sean. And good morning to you, Kevin. Hope you are well across in the USA. And yeah, lots of people nursing hangovers. Be interesting to see what signings Newcastle make in the summer. Sporting Icons, big shout out to you, mate. Keep up all the great boxing content. Give the lads a sub over there. Some great interviews for all the big boxing occasions. But you are right. It will be interesting to see what happens. And by the sounds of it, Al Ramain is certainly going to trust Eddie Howe and his scouting staff's judgments, I think. And why not, after the signings that they've made over the last couple of years? Geordie's in the Champions League, says to coin a phrase. I remember a few of my mates losing their bar jobs when European football stopped coming to Newcastle. How much money do you think this will generate, Ross, for the area and Newcastle?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to put a figure on it, but there'll certainly be a huge economic upturn, in terms of, the profile of the city. It will go through the roof. You get extra, obviously there's extra games to be played in the city, which creates extra jobs, extra income for the bars and restaurants and shops and everything else in the city. You're bringing in international tourists, followers into the city. So look, it's massive. It's massive not just for the football club, but it's massive for the community, for the city, for the surrounding areas. And that can only be good. So this is just a fantastic positive story for everyone connected with Newcastle, both on the pitch and off it as well.
Yeah, Bryce says, I agree, Longstaff needs to improve with his goal scoring, but how much better does our midfield hold together when he's in the team? Was a big miss when he was out of the team. Strange situation last night, because Joe Linton was originally named as part of the starting lineup, and then must have picked up some kind of injury, or there must have been a reverse in thought. I've got no idea what happened there, but it's Elliot Anderson put into midfield. I'm going to ask you about Elliot Anderson. He had an opportunity last night, and I thought he took it. Got a little knock in the second half, which I think curtailed his appearance. But I don't think he looked out of place. Still a lot to learn, but I still think he showed that he can play in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think look, it wasn't easy to. I don't think coming.
Losing you there, Ross. Your internet's gone, mate. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Ross, while you sort your internet out and jump over. I'm going to go with the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickys.co.uk. If you want to place an order, call 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickys.co.uk. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things, and to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. If you like the channel, please hit the like underneath the video. It helps us grow. And click share and share to your other social media. If you want to help us financially, please click join. And there's a range of different packages, and it explains how you can do that. If you want to become a cult member and receive these goodies, a scarf, a pen, and a cup, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw, for a one-off fee of £25, simply go to nufcmatters.com and find cult membership. If you've got a smartphone, put it over this QR code now. It'll take you straight there. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. And we also support the food bank on this channel. The Matchday Bucket helps you donate virtually. Go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk to find out more. We've got some events coming up over the course of the next 12 months. An evening with John Anderson takes place at the Tynemouth Surf Cafe. Only limited tickets available. 13th of June. Go to their website to buy tickets. Bend it like Bobby. Cometh the hour, cometh the man. And just after the hour, the man did cometh at the double, as it was time to bend it like Bobby. It's a comedy play. It's a rehearsed reading by Jim Orr. It features myself and a few other cast members. Friday the 16th of June, Tickets on sale at newcastlelegends.com, and they're only £5. And even with Frank Clark, well, this is our Christmas due. Thursday, December the 7th. Tickets are £15 from NUFCmatters.com at the Tyneside Irish Centre. And a big one for the new year, January the 25th, Keegan, Waddle and Beardsley and special guests back together, the class of 1984 at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on Westgate Road. Tickets available direct from the venue. If you like T-shirts and you want a few for the summer, get yourself to NUFCmatters.com. The Isaac T-shirt is proven very popular.
Okay, Ross, I think we've got you back. Elliot Anderson, what was your thoughts on him last night?
Yeah, so I was saying, Steve, I thought it was difficult for the lad coming in very late on last night. Obviously, Joe Linton named in the starting 11, and then felt his injury in the warm up, and it was decided that he couldn't continue. Elliot Anderson was doing his warm up separately, I think, with the subs, and had to kind of come into the team very, very late on. I thought he did okay. I thought he did fine. He looked busy in the first half. I thought he picked up some good positions, and he linked well. It was a difficult game for him to come into, in the sense that he saw a lot of the ball, but as we've discussed before, Leicester had a real kind of low block and plenty of men behind the ball, so it wasn't easy for him to find space. It wasn't easy for him to create or to get into the box and get into goal scoring opportunities. But he didn't do himself any harm whatsoever, and it was great just to see three Geordie lads on the pitch at the start of the game in Elliot Anderson, Sean Longstaff, Dan Byrne. You had Paul Dummett on the bench. You had Lewis Miley on the bench. You had Jacob Murphy, who's all intents and purposes a Geordie as well. It was great to see that kind of that local flavour to the side in the squad last night. And I think Elliot Anderson's got a big future ahead of him. He's going to get more opportunities. He's going to be part of a squad playing at the top level next season. And I think he will continue to develop and to keep improving. And whether that's as one of the three midfielders or it's slightly further forward, we'll have to wait and see. I do think Newcastle will and have to and will strengthen their midfield in the summer. I think that is a key area for Newcastle to strengthen. We've seen that when Bruno's not quite at it, there's nobody really to bring in to replace him. Similarly, talking about Sean Longstaff and the difference he made when he came back into the squad. You want to have like for like replacements, so that when somebody does come out of the squad, you've got somebody who can hopefully step in quite well. So there will be some strengthening and some extra competition for places, no doubt. But like I said before, I think Elliot Anderson's got a really bright future ahead of him.
Yeah. Is Bruno looking to still be on the pitch after 8 minutes, and would the referees in Europe have sent him off? Interesting. Big debate, this one, about Bruno. Should he have gone, Ross?
Yeah, he should have done for me. I thought it was a nailed on red card. I always try to look at it if it was on the other side, how you would feel, how would you react? And I thought he got away with it. I'm not sure what VAR we're looking at, because it's one thing the referee not quite seeing it and understanding it. I thought for VAR to have a look and to still rule it is nothing serious. I thought was a little bit incredible, really. And like I say, if that had been Tielemans or Ndidi or someone like that on a Newcastle player, I think the majority of the crowd would have been baying and expecting a red. So he did get away with it a little bit. I thought there was a fair bit of nerves in them opening periods. There was that tension. Bruno just seemed a little bit agitated. Sven Botman gave a couple of passes away, and there was just a few, even Kieran Trippier, there was a little bit of tension you could see, and I think that played a part in Bruno's challenge. For me, it was a nailed on red card. I don't know what everybody else thinks. I don't know if everybody agrees, but I thought Newcastle got away with one there. Okay,
Tom Dixon says, question for Ross, would you sign Maddison, and what did you think of him when he came on last night? I mean, I've got to be honest, I didn't think he had the greatest of games. I mean, two things that stood out with Leicester last night were that Vardy is, not the player he was. He's 34 now. Can't believe that they're still reeling Johnny Evans out. at Leicester as like their main centre half. But you know, he still tries, but not the same Johnny Evans from back in the day. But Maddison, on the bench, and you know, didn't really do much to affect the game last night. I didn't think.
No, he didn't. He didn't. It was, again, look, he was obviously left out for purely tactical reasons, in the sense that, you know, they wanted to go with a stiffer midfield and 5 at the back and have the 2 quick lads up top who and try and hit Newcastle on the break. And then when Iheanacho got injured and had to come off, Maddison came on, and almost as an attacking midfielder, kind of false 10, false 9, whatever you want to call it. It was difficult for him to get in the game, but it was difficult for any Leicester player to get in the game last night because of the setup, because of the way that they were. And he didn't have much influence or impact. That said, he nearly created the winner. It was his cross right at the end for Castagne, whose volley was obviously well saved. And in that last 5 or 10 minutes, when he did get himself on the ball a little bit more, he was at the kind of the heart of the good stuff that Leicester did, albeit it was too little, too late for them. Would I sign him? Absolutely would. Absolutely would. I think he fits perfectly into what Newcastle want to do. He adds some extra quality into that midfield area now for me. You saw last night that Newcastle still struggle and will struggle against teams with that kind of low block, and with that kind of system of putting a lot of men behind the ball. For all the good things that Newcastle have going forward, and look, you can argue that they could have scored 3 or 4 last night, and it's difficult to argue against that. But there wasn't a whole host of clear-cut chances. Bear in mind, it was 82-83% possession. So I think they still need that little bit of magic, that little bit of mystery, that ability to unpick a packed defence with a through ball or a cross, or a little bit of magic in and around the final third. And I think Maddison could do that. I think that Maddison could provide that. He's going to want to step up. He's going to want to. He's not going to want to stay at Leicester. He's going to want to play Champions League football. He's at that point in his career now where he's mid-20s and he wants to kick on. So I think it's a good fit between Maddison and Newcastle. I think Newcastle will make another bid for him in the summer and push the boat out to try and get him. I think there will be competition for his services as well, but I wouldn't judge him on last night. I would judge him on what he's done the majority of this season and last season, and he's been excellent. I think he'd be a great addition.
What's the rule for teams buying players early? Brighton have just signed João Pedro a couple of weeks ago. Do you expect guys Newcastle to do their business early? Well, the ruling is quite simple, really. When the transfer window is closed, teams in England and across Europe can still continue to negotiate with each other outside the window, but they can't be registered with new clubs if the transfer window is closed. So in practice, it means that clubs can agree to sign a player from another side, but the new signing cannot register with the league that they're going to, and so cannot move clubs until the transfer window opens again. It's as simple as that, really. Do you expect Newcastle to do their business early, Ross?
I expect them to try to get their business done early. I think it's going to be a really difficult market, this one, for Newcastle. I think it's going to be a really tricky summer. Now they're in the Champions League. I think they become a more attractive proposition for players, but at the same time, moving into the Champions League will narrow the pool of players in some ways that they want to target. It's not as if you're mid-table and you're trying to improve. You're in the top 4 now, and the pool of players that will be available to Newcastle that can improve the starting 11 and improve the squad becomes so much narrower. And there's a lot more competition. Throw in the fact that people will even more say Newcastle now is a bit of a cash cow. I think is somebody with a lot of money to be able to throw around the riches of the Champions League and the riches of the Saudi ownership group. I think it just makes it a really difficult summer for Newcastle. But to go back to the original point of getting the business done early, the preparations and the work for this transfer window will have started months and months and months and months ago. So Newcastle will know who they want to get. Whether they can get them in early enough, we'll have to wait and see. But that's what every club's trying to do. And some clubs have been a lot more successful at it than others. Liverpool get their business done really quickly and early in previous transfer windows. Teams like Villa do it quite quickly and quite early. Let's hope Newcastle can certainly get one or two over the line quickly. And to be fair, they have done in previous windows. So there's no reason to think that they won't be trying to do the same thing, but it will be a really difficult some of this one, I think.
John says, do you agree with Mike? Parley reckons the club might only finalise sponsorship deals once the Champions League outcome had been confirmed. This means we can maximise things now that it's done. I think we'll hear some kind of announcement, won't we, before the season's out? Yeah,
absolutely. And it's a good point. You know, the if you're pitching to sponsors, if you're trying to attract new commercial entities into the club and new businesses into supporting and backing you, if you've got that carrot of Champions League football, of being a Champions League team to offer businesses, then it just means that you can add a few extra pennies on the price and bump it up a little bit. So look, from every possible standing, the qualifying for the Champions League is fantastic. It's great for this club. It's on the pitch. It's great for the players. It's great for the commercial arm off the pitch. It's great for the city and the region as a whole. And yes, Newcastle might go in and they might struggle. They might not be able to quite compete at the levels that some of the teams that have come up against have been competing at over recent years. But it's a building block. It's putting Newcastle back on the European map, back on the world map. The ability to attract better sponsorship and better commercial deals. And if it doesn't go great on the pitch, then so be it. You take the learnings and you come off stronger, both in terms of your playing experience, but stronger certainly financially and commercially.
ASM question will be asked no doubt countless times throughout the summer, but do you think he'll still be here next season?
No. If I was a betting man, if I I'm not going to play politician and sit on the fence and go this, that, and the other. If I'm asked the question, I don't think he will. Interestingly, I thought he was a real spark last night though, because of that kind of low block. They needed somebody who could cause a few problems, do something a little bit differently, take players on, go past 2 or 3, drop a shoulder, go inside or outside. And I thought he was very good when he came on last night, to be fair. But does he fit into Eddie Howe's overall ethos and the way that he wants the team to play? I'm not convinced, no. So if I had to jump one way or the other, I'd say I think he'll be on his way this summer.
Paul says, hi lads, teams will come to St James's Park and park the bus after watching Leicester last night. Additions of more quality players will help us break that kind of system down. Yeah, we definitely need somebody to unlock defences, I think, and a few players to be able to hit the target as well. It was a tough game last night, and plenty of chances created, but I still don't think there was enough shots on goal. We can get better than Maddison. Big fuss over nothing, in my opinion. However, how improves players, says Andrew Fungo. Thanks for watching, mate. See you soon. Thought that the Bruno challenge was only a yellow. He was leaning back, no power in the challenge, just a dangling leg, which the player ran into. Somebody put in the chat as well that the reason that, Trolls heard pundits say about Bruno's tackle that he didn't follow through, and that's why he wasn't sent off. It's all about opinions, and that's why, unfortunately, VAR is down to people making mistakes or not making mistakes, whatever. Dan says they can buy anyone whenever, they just don't get the registration until the window opens. Yeah, which is correct. We're signing players like Bruno and Isak. Surely Champions League would make it easier to get players. Diaby would be my first signing. Yeah, Diaby's another one which we've seen plenty links for. Steve says, question for Ross, how much is the group stage worth? So figures are between 50 and 80 million. It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. I don't think it's quite them sort of numbers. I don't think it's that kind of 50 to 80 million. Certainly not in terms of your I suppose your prize fund that you get. But when you factor in all of the additional kind of commercial opportunities and the stuff that we've talked about there in terms of the profile and everything else like that, then it becomes really, really lucrative in terms of on the pitch. I think you get something like 13.5 million just for playing in the group stage, in the group stages. That's a kind of set base fee, and then
group stage draws 930,000. Group stage wins 2.8 million.
2.8.
Round of 16, 9.6 million. Quarterfinalists 10.6 million.
Yeah, so you can win the whole lot, and you'll get about 60 million or so, I think, round about if you win the Champions League. So group stages, you're probably looking at maybe around the 20 million mark if you have a decent group stage. Maybe, even if you don't qualify, you win a couple of games, you draw a couple of games, you're probably looking at around the 20 million pound mark, I think.
Yeah, this year, reaching the group stage in this year's Champions League that's just taking place at the moment, 15.64 million for reaching the group stage. Then group stage draws 930k, as I said. Group stage wins 2.8 million. Semi-finalists get 12.5 million. Runner-up gets 15.5 million in the final, and the winner gets 20 million for the win in the final.
Yeah. So I think Newcastle will guarantee themselves pretty much 20 million pounds just from playing in the group stage, regardless of kind of whether they progress then into the last 16 or the quarters or whatever. And then, like I say, all the sponsorship that comes with it is really, really important and can then boost them numbers. So look, it's just it's fantastic financially. It's fantastic footballing wise as well. Regardless of how well Newcastle doing it, let's just enjoy it. Let's enjoy it. It's been 20 years since we last saw Champions League football at St James's Park, and we can remember those who watched them, who were there on some of these fantastic nights, great atmospheres, watching the best clubs in the world, the biggest, most historic teams in Europe at St James's Park. Absolutely fantastic night, and it's just great that regardless of the money, regardless of everything else that comes with it, the fact that we're going to see that type of football again at the Gallagher.
What's ASM done wrong since you think we'll sell him, Ross? Says Trulls, our resident ASM fan.
I don't think he's not necessarily done anything wrong. I just don't think he fits in with how Newcastle want to play. I think he's also probably he might also be a little bit of a victim of the fact that he's one of the sellable assets that Newcastle have. And if Newcastle are wanting to keep as closely as they can within the FFP constraints, then they will have to bring some revenue in from player sales. That is just a fact. That's what Chelsea do. That's what your Man United do. That's what your Man Cities do. Man City, they spent a lot of money, but the money that they've also recouped from selling some of their big hitters over the years, even your Gabriel Jesus and your Zinchenko's and your Sterlings in last summer. Look at the money that Chelsea bring in from player sales. Look at the money that that Liverpool have brought in from selling your Coutinho's and your Mane's and people like that. You've got to be able to balance the books a little bit. You can't just keep buying players without recouping some of that money. So ASM is one of the players that would be able to command a relatively good fee. And that is one of the reasons I think that Newcastle will look to sell him. Whether he's not necessarily done anything wrong, I just think that he's a sellable asset, and I don't think he's on the periphery of Newcastle's first team. If you had to pick Newcastle's strongest 11 right now, everybody fit, would ASM be in that? He wasn't in it last night. I thought that was as close to the strongest 11 last night before Joe Linton's injury. You can argue whether Isak should be playing on the left or through the middle, and whether you play ASM or Anthony Gordon or whoever out wide, but he's not guaranteed to be in that strongest 11. And as a result, I think he's somebody who could be on his way in the summer.
Only reason I'd consider selling the ASM is for a good offer, as his injury record. Same goes for anyone that's struggling to stay fit. Trull says fair enough, but also says I think ASM deserves to be with a club in the Champions League, in my opinion. Look, it's an interesting one. He did look good last night. Eric Good afternoon. Didn't sell Maximin. I would cost a bomb to buy a replacement. Focus on positions that are weaker for me. So again, it'll always be a player that splits opinions. Some people love him, some people not so keen. Will be interesting to see what happens with him in the in the summer. It's an exciting time to be a Newcastle fan, and let's see what happens. Benny says, question for Ross: do you think we need 5 starter players this summer? Right centre back, left back, midfield destroyer, attacking creative midfielder, and a versatile attacker, or is that too much?
I don't think it's too much, Benny. No, I think you're pretty much nail on the head in terms of those positions. I think I think Newcastle need around the 5 or 6 additions in the summer. The right centre half is absolutely one that they will look at. Fabian Shearer's had a fantastic season, a really, really good season. Has been part of a really strong defence, but you've got to be ruthless. You've got to be looking at how you can improve the next. How can you make that next step? How can you keep improving? And sometimes it's about those little 1 or 2 or 3%. And can Newcastle get an upgrade on Fabian Shearer? That's what they'll be looking at, and he's in his 30s now, so he's a player. I think that's a position that I think Newcastle will look to strengthen. Left back, I agree with. Newcastle got 3 or 4 left backs on their books, and Dan Burner's been outstanding for me. One of the players of the season, comfortably playing in that role, and such a great character. But again, if Newcastle are being ruthless, they might look to improve that. Absolutely, in the 2 midfield areas, a midfield destroyer. Maybe not destroyer, but certainly that kind of that centre midfield, player who can protect the back 4, a bit like a Rodri or Fernandinho or a Declan Rice or somebody, Casemiro, that kind of ilk of a player. And then maybe somebody who can attack a little bit more, and a versatile forward. Yeah, I think you're pretty much bang on with those five positions. I don't think it's too much at all. I think they'll cost, though. They'll absolutely cost. You're talking easy thick end of 220 million to bring in 5 players in those positions who will improve Newcastle, unless the recruitment is really good and they can bring in a couple of bargains. But I think you're looking at possibly 200 million on 5 positions there.
Would you cash in on Mickey like Don Milburn? 29 years old. Don't think he'll do any better than this season going forward. He's past his purple patch.
Yes, I would. I think I've said it on this program before. I think Miggy has again had an absolutely phenomenal season, but he's never going to improve on that spell. Interestingly, Newcastle handed him a long-term contract just a few months ago. So you can look at that 2 ways. It's tying him down because they don't want to leave him, or it's increasing his value in the sense that he's under contract. So if they do decide to cash in on him, they'll get a little bit more. Look, he's fantastic for the team. His work rate, his energy. I thought he was a real bright spark, certainly in the first half last night. So I do think he's a real asset to Newcastle. But again, if you're looking for those little percentages, if you're looking to improve the squad, and you need to bring some money into the club, again, he might be one of those at risk. He's certainly not going to have a better season than what he's just done this season for me. But is that a reason to sell him? I'm not quite sure.
Benny says, I've read a report we were interested in signing Renan Lodi from Athletic, but being on loan at Forest. Forest haven't triggered his buy option. Fingers crossed it's true. Interested last summer. Yeah, we were interested last summer. Is this one that might rear its head again?
I'm not sure on this one, Steve. I'm not really aware of any interest in him. Obviously, I've seen his name linked, but we'll have to wait and see. If I've said this before, if Newcastle are more than happy to be patient with transfer targets, and if they don't get somebody the first time, they're quite happy to go back the second time or the third time, and bring a player in that way. They've done that with Anthony Gordon, with Sven Botman. They're more than happy to be patient, and if they think that is the right person, they might not be able to get him this window, but they might be able to get him the next one. So we'll wait and see. But there's going to be a whole host of names linked with a move to Tyneside this summer.
Yeah, Christopher says, Steve, sorry, but for us, we have to replace that left wing. We've got Joe Linton, who will be first choice once we sign 2 midfielders this summer, as we needed a centre defensive midfielder and covering aid for Bruno if injured, a left back and a right wing. I mean, left back seems to be a lot of people's focus. A lot of people feel that, we can't play Dan Burn there in the Champions League. He's certainly not going to be able to play all those games. Left back priority for you, Ross?
Yeah, I think it probably is. And I think, you've got Dan Burn, you've got Matt Targett, you've got Paul Dummett, you've got Jamal Lewis, and all have got their qualities. But you don't need 4 left backs in a squad. I think there needs to be a little bit of I suppose tightening up rather than having maybe 4 left backs around the same kind of standard. Can you improve that area? And I think that is one of the areas that Newcastle will look to potentially improve. I think Dan Burn has been outstanding. I've said it just before, but I think he's been absolutely brilliant. He's not the most attacking left back, and I think that showed a little bit last night when they had Leicester had 10 men behind the ball. A lot of the time it went out wide right to Kieran Trippier, and you're looking for Trippier to thread balls through or put crosses in. When it went out to the left hand side to Dan Burn, that's not really his forte. And a lot of the time he was recycling the ball off to Isaac or to ASM or to whoever else in front of him. So, but he offers versatility, offers leadership. He'll definitely be a part of Newcastle over the next couple of seasons. But if you're looking to improve that starting 11, I think the left back could be a good shout.
Will the capacity be reduced for the Champions League? I think it was when we were there last time due to advertising, says Andrew. Interesting question. I don't know.
Rings a bell, yeah. It does ring a little bit of a bell, that, but I can barely remember what I did yesterday, never mind 20 years ago. So we'll have a look. I'll certainly have a look into that one. It might be. Yeah, there was something rings a bell with us, but hopefully not. Hopefully we can get as many fans into St James's as possible.
Yeah, go and get Tierney, says Chris. Bring in a centre defensive midfielder. Get Diaby. Bring in Taribos, right centre back. That solves our issues here. Tierney, another one that's linked heavily with a move to Newcastle from Arsenal, of course.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain on Tierney. I think he's a fantastic player when he's fit. I just worry about how robust he is to play full seasons. Interestingly, he was been on the bench a lot for Man City, not for Man City, sorry, a lot for Arsenal this season, and even towards the back end of the season, in games when Zinchenko's not been available, he hasn't always started. So I'm not quite sure. I think when he is fit and flying, Kieran Tierney, I've watched him for Scotland a few times, and he's a real talent, and he can play that left centre back role as well at a push. So he is a great player, but there's just something nagging away at us that I'm not quite sure if he's the right person for Newcastle at this point in time.
Darren Lee says Mo Salisu. Yeah, it's another one linked. And as I say, when we come into the transfer shows, Darren, over the summer, we will be updating you on them. Ben Jacobs is one for the Europeans, and we'll certainly be focusing heavily on them throughout the summer. Bobby Firmino, 210 records, is another great shout. He says he'd be an incredible signing for Newcastle this season. Yeah, I mean, somebody was saying to me yesterday that Milner's going to Brighton, I think, James Milner. Which again, they would probably still be able to do a job. How much Newcastle are looking to maybe sign players from other teams, I'm not too sure. It'll be, as I say, it's a fascinating time, the transfer window. It's frustrating at times, but at least now we can go into transfer windows with optimism. We know we're going to be bringing in good players. We need to start work on the Gallagher end ASAP for European nights. Yes. Maybe there's going to be an announcement on that as well. We might find that happens sooner rather than later. Any news on getting the Strawberry Land ready for a fan zone next season? I mean, you would imagine that building on the ground would be more of a priority than an area for people to go and socialise. But again, it's part of the matchday experience. I did a little tour around the ground yesterday and stuck it up on the YouTube channel. I went up before kick-off, and I've always felt that the land behind the Leazes is underused. The last time that was chock-a-block was Alan Shearer signing back in '95. So, you know, but that you could easily have something around there. You know, you go to Wolves, they have like a fan zone. There's no reason why they couldn't set something up on a match per match basis around there.
No, you're right. I think the same at that Leeds end. That's the way I always used to walk in when I was sitting in the East Stand. I used to walk around the back of the Leazers and round to the East Stand, and it was always I always felt the same as you, Steve. It was a bit of an underused space there. There's definitely more that they can do. I think the fan zone stuff is really interesting. I think the match day experience is something that is, you know, some people smirk and laugh and think, oh, match day experience is, you know, blah 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 blah. I think it's important. I think it's important to the club and to the fan base. It might not be your cup of tea, but people want to do what they want to do before a game. Some want to go to the same bars and pubs that they've always been to. Some want to just come in and get to their seat as quickly as possible. Some want to get into the ground. But for me, I think providing different alternatives for fans and having something, particularly for the families, particularly for the kids, you know, whether it's a bit of a five-a-side or a bit of, you know, whatever it is, something that's a little bit more family friendly around the fan zones as well. You know, we've seen them at Wembley in before games and stuff like that. I think that there's a real place for them, and I'd like to see Newcastle develop that side of it.
Yeah, me too. There is an option, guys, but would we push the budget for Cancelo? He's not wanted at City. It would be a world-class left-back. I mean, that's the kind of player you'd love to see come in, but again, it's whether we can afford those kind of wages. I want to see Miley against Chelsea give Bruno a rest. Yeah, I think he may well do. We may well see a run out. There's nothing really to play for Chelsea, is there? And Newcastle are in the Champions League now. I guess you wait and see what happens with Manchester United and Chelsea. If there's a draw in that game or Chelsea were dead and win at Old Trafford, Newcastle may want to finish in third. Troll says Simon Jordan questioning how. Yeah, I mean, again, it's just all for publicity and clicks. Can I just say it was great to see our fans stay off the pitch at full time last night? Yeah, I mean, we go back to the days when there used to be an invasion on the pitch, Ross, and people used to swing on the crossbar and wreck it at the end of the season and in some kind of bizarre celebration. But yeah, Newcastle fans behave, don't they? Unlike fans of other clubs, they do stand, they do, you know, applaud the team and then, you know, head off to the boozers.
Yeah, very respectful. And that's what you want, you know, you support the team, but, you know, don't pile onto the pitch. For two or three reasons. One, it's not your area to pile on to, you know, and you don't want to be putting players or safety or anything else like that is a concern. And secondly, it just creates a better spectacle because, you know, look at the photos last night. Look at the whole family's on the pitch, able to walk around, get signed autographs, take in the atmosphere. That. You know, I know it's for the fans. It is for the fans, the whole celebrations, but it also was for the players who had put so much into that season. They wanted to enjoy it. They wanted to savor that moment, and they wouldn't have been able to if 5,000 or 500 or however many fans had piled onto the pitch and made a pig's ear of it all. So it was good that there was a respectful tradition of waiting in the stands and letting the players do the lap of honour, and that's the way it should be for me. Yeah, absolutely.
The London teams must be worried that the northern clubs will take over. If it wasn't for Arsenal this season, there would have been 4 northern clubs in the Champions League. That's a great point. 210 records, really, really good. Do you rate Dunk at Brighton? Says Mark Kerrigan. Ross,
He's had a very good season. Really, really good season. I think he's been underrated a lot over recent years, and he's probably been unlucky not to get a bit more recognition on the international stage. But he's had a fantastic season, not only with his defending, but he's kind of his possession style, the way he's become a kind of key player for Brighton, starting their attacks, bringing the ball out of the defence. You know, his passing range has been really good. So. Yeah, I think he's had a fantastic season, Lewis Dunk.
Steve, I know the fans want the expansion done, but we've got to be realistic. The monorail system would have to be redirected as it runs under the expansion ground and would take years to restructure. I doubted how at the start of the season. Now I question myself, says Trulls. Players are with kids as well. They'd be terrified if fans ran on the pitch. Up the marks, says Chicken Oriental. Great to have so many people in the chat. Somebody was asking as well, have you seen the letter that Alan Shearer sent Benny to Eddie Howe? I have. Very, very long and in-depth letter that was from Alan, where he thanked him, I guess, from the bottom of his heart for changing things. Dear Eddie, thank you. Thank you for the top 4, for the Champions League, for this season of discovery and self-discovery, for the wonder of winning and its piercing noise. Thank you for the primal rage of St. James's Park. Thank you for giving us the month of May and a flutter of tension, a feeling which is familiar and a reason that it is not, that is not to be the hunters, not the hunted. Thank you for allowing us to reclaim our streets, people smiling, restaurants buzzing, bars buzzing, an entire city, a beehive of buzzing, connected to the club again, one and indivisible, alive and wash with happiness. After all those sour years of being patronised or ignored, of people failing to appreciate why they were so, of being told we expected too much or demanded too much. Bear with us because the place that I'm reading from, it's gone off unbelievably. You get the picture from that little bit. There we go. After all these sour years of being patronised or ignored, or people failing to appreciate why they were being so, being told we expected too much or demanded too much or felt too much, thank you for reminding us not to give an F. Thank you for coming here and getting us. Thank you for bothering. In spite of some witless commentary over the decades, Newcastle has never been wedded to kamikaze football or Hollywood signings or distrustful of outsiders. The most fundamental aspects of Newcastle have always been our openness and our industry. Embrace us like we embrace life, like we embrace you, and we never let go. Thank you for forging this fine team. As I write to you, bear with us again. Honestly, adverts on some of these websites are absolutely horrendous. Thank you for forging this fine team. As I write to you, I can picture the response from elsewhere. Calm down, you've not won anything. But those people don't appreciate how little we've had to cheer and how novel it feels to see your lads put a shift in, enhancing each other. They are a team in the purest sense, greater than the sum of their parts, all in it together. The easy thing, the lazy thing is to say that you've splurged a fortune, but not compared to plenty of others. And what you've actually done is take a club at its lowest ebb, bottom of the Premier League, and offered balance to years of underspending or misspending. Thank you for buying well and sensibly, for making your foundation a core of a character. Thank you for not going down that well-trodden route of instant gratification. Thank you for giving us Bruno, Sven Botman, and Alexander Isak, quality players we were intrigued by, but who were hardly household names. Thank you for bringing Dan Burn home to us, and for letting him beat us and represent us game in, week out, for the drive and delight of realising his boyhood dream from watching the Champions League as a kid to taking us there. I've got that fear of tomorrow, you said in our interview, but if I can ask one thing of you, Eddie, just one more thing, it's this. Let tomorrow go to hell, just this once. Look up and look around and see what you've unleashed and drink it in. Thank you for making home feel like home again. Best wishes, Alan. Brilliant, eh?
Fantastic, yeah, and I think that sums up so much of what Newcastle fans feel and how they would like to speak to Eddie Howe and how they would like to thank him for what he's done, not just this season, last season. Restoring the pride in the club, restoring the pride in the city, and just getting that connection back with fans, with ex-players, with the current players, with people who've become so disillusioned over the last 14, 15 years with under the previous regime. It lost a little bit of hope, lost a little bit of the soul, lost a little bit of love even for Newcastle. That love is back, that connection is back. It's down to a lot of people, and Eddie Howe is right at the central part of that.
Great stuff. I'm sure we'll be discussing that tomorrow night on my podcast with the lads. Jodie's here, Jodie's there, 6 till 7. And then 7 till 8, Liam Kennedy will be on the show. Just tell us where we can find your work, Ross.
Yeah, pottering around doing bits and pieces for various different websites, but we're doing a bit of work with the Chronicle. We've got a couple of things coming up soon. Got an interview with yourself, Steve. We've got the player of the season coming up. We're going to be launching a big survey as well to get fans' opinions on how the season's going, what they want to see in the summer, what they want to see for ahead of next season. So a lot of good things coming your way on the Chronicle. So just keep an eye out, and I'll pop some links on social, on Twitter, where you can find me, Ross Gregory 9.
Fantastic, mate. As always, big shout out to everybody in the chat. Thanks to all the moderators and everyone who tuned in. A few people off work. I think over 200 tuning in on a Tuesday afternoon. I think we're all hungover and taking a slight day off. So, but we can excuse ourselves. It's the Champions League. I'm going to go and rest my voice and get ready for 2 shows tomorrow. Ross, have a great afternoon, mate. And I will send you an email with the categories, etc., for next week for our end of season review, mate. Quick prediction for the Chelsea game.
Oh, I don't care. I don't care.
All right,
care. It'll be 5-0 win, 5-0 defeat. I do not care the slightest.
Great stuff. Have a good week, mate. Take care, pal.
Cheers, yeah.
Mr. Stephen Sayers, I'm arresting you on suspicion of armed robbery. You do not have to say anything.